Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 72. I am your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. This is an informational podcast for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. Our website is perrysburgpodcast.com. Perrysburg is a river town. If you live here, you know that. The Maumee River sits as a major feature at the northern border of our town. Fishermen, boaters, birders, and other nature enthusiasts love this area because of the river and also nearby Lake Erie. Today's episode is an interview with Jesse Stock. Jesse is the executive director at Partners for Clean Streams. In a nutshell, Partners for Clean Streams promotes clean, safe waterways, thriving wildlife, and community stewardship of natural resources. When I learned about Partners for Clean Streams back in 2023, I knew it was important. I didn't know as much about them then as I do now after talking to Jesse Stock. But when I saw their table at the Perrysburg Homecoming Festival in 2023, and then this year in 2024, I knew that I needed to learn more. Lauren Rush also prompted me to have this interview. She mentioned Partners for Clean Streams in episode 38 of the Perrysburg podcast, which was about Perrysburg's Great American Cleanup. So it should come as no surprise that I invited Partners for Clean Streams to be on the podcast today. It's like God winking at me. People mention things often enough, and I know they're important, and they finally make it on the podcast. I wanted to know more about Partners for Clean Streams, and this is a great opportunity for you to learn about them too. So I hope you enjoy our conversation today. During our conversation, Jesse will talk about what Partners for Clean Streams is, waterway cleanup events they organize, interesting items they find. You have to hear this. That's one of the most interesting parts of the interview. He also talks about how many pounds of trash volunteers have removed from local waterways over the last 28 years, volunteer engagement, donor support, educational outreach, challenges our waterways face in the year 2025, and more. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Partners for Clean Streams Executive Director, Jesse Stock. Hi, Jesse. Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast.
Hi, Kim.
It's good to have you with me today. What is Partners for Clean Streams, and what are you all about? What do you do for Perrysburg and the surrounding community?
Sure. One, thank you for having us. We have been in the Perrysburg area for the last 17 years. We were incorporated in 2007, and we are known for our cleanup event that happens on an annual basis. We have some programming year-round, but what we're most known for is picking up debris in September and contributing to the community by removing things that don't belong in our waterways. That event engages the community, it engages our local corporations, our local businesses, and our local municipals about water issues and specifically the things that don't belong. Oftentimes plastic, cigarette butts, fishing line, lead weights, sometimes an occasional TV, but it's amazing. We've been doing it for a lot of years, removed a lot of things that don't belong, including things like tires. But yeah, we've been doing it for 28 years. It's hard to believe that long of an effort's been underway. And if I'm not mistaken, this most recent year that happened, cleanup event, which was our 28th one, we crested 500,000 tons of debris. That's 1 million pounds of debris removed from our waterway.
Over 28 different cleanup days.
Mm-hmm.
That is so much. I was reading your annual report, and I think it's very attention-getting, all these weird things that come out of our rivers and waterways. And I found on the annual report this really interesting list, and I just got to recite this straight from the list here. There was a message in a bottle, which I find very interesting. Somebody littered our waterways with that. A turtle-shaped sandbox, a hot tub cover, a bar stool, a bowling ball. How do you even get that out of the river? It must have been stuck, just absolutely stuck. A coffee table. Come on. Like, how do you accidentally, oops, I dropped that, came out of my pocket. A plastic Christmas tree, an inner tube full of bricks, and a pile of 8 sofa cushions. It's crazy what people will just dump in a river. It's sad, but I am so grateful that there are volunteers, first of all, and organizations like you, Partners for Clean Streams, to organize these volunteers and haul this stuff out of the river. How do you get rid of it? Do you guys have a dumpster, or how does that work?
Whether intentional or unintentional, things do end up in the waterway. It could be from a flood. It could be something that just blows out of a recycling bin.
Good point.
But the things that do end up in there don't belong there. And unfortunately, much of the stuff that we are recovering and pulling out is not recyclable. It's dirty, and therefore needs to be put in a landfill. There are programs out there that are able to sort some of those products, and we do have some things that we are able to send off to be recycled properly. There are organizations that do styrofoam. There are organizations that will take in tires, monofilament line or fishing line. We can send that off to be recycled. Right now, we're applying for a grant to recycle cigarette butts. So there are things that are recyclable, but much of it will be taken to a landfill for proper disposal.
Yeah, I kind of figured that because sofa cushions, I have never heard of a way to recycle those. But when Lauren was on the podcast, she was talking about some of the weird things that they have found as they have cleaned up our area. And one of the things they found was a shopping cart. Mm-hmm. What the heck? I think that she said they found it in a ditch. But you never know what you're going to find, right?
Yeah, where there's human activity, human behavior, you will sometimes find those unusual things. And it's an opportunity for us to think about what is oftentimes left behind. You mentioned that message in a bottle. That message had been out there for, if I'm not mistaken, over 40 years. So that bottle was sitting out there waiting to be picked up, waiting to be received and heard.
I got to ask, did you get to read the message that was in the bottle?
I did not receive that one. No,
Man.
no. I have another story about a water bottle that sat around since 1943 on a Boy Scout camp that I actually cleaned up, and it actually has some value. Again, the things that are end up in our waterways, in our ditches, they don't belong there. And oftentimes they're not going to break down easily. Like monofilament line takes 600 years to break down. And once it does, then that's microplastics in your waterway. And they're already there, and they're showing up in the other things that live in the waterway. And ultimately, some of those things are recreational. We go fishing and we are catching fish, and we may eat those fish. So we like to think that it's important to think about what's the habitat that we want to live in and coexist with other things on this earth.
Those things that are swimming around, I didn't think about how that could become their food eventually. And, we eat those fish, especially the walleye, right? Walleye and perch are very popular around here. I do not want to eat plastic. No, thank you.
Yeah, no. And recreation is big. It is a big way. We are doing our best efforts to engage that community because we do see their participation as a way forward to support our programs. So we have fishing line recovery bins along the Maumee River. We have some 54 collection bins that we use. We do special programs during the summer for specifically when the water levels are low enough that you can walk in the waterway and pick up stuff. I think in that most recent cleanup, I think we got 66 lead weights on my group that we went out. So we're still seeing that recreation as one of the contributors to what we see in the waterway, but it's definitely not the only thing.
Thank you for sharing about some of the things that you're seeing as you're cleaning up the rivers. I thought it was really impactful, to use the word that's on this piece of paper I'm about to read from. It's really impactful to see all of the accomplishments that you made in 2023. The number of volunteers, 1,250. That's amazing. Those aren't just Perrysburg residents, right? You're able to get buy-in from the greater Toledo area, right? Would you like to talk about your volunteers?
I've seen volunteers as young as 4 and 5, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout members. They're young, they're getting out, they're participating Our volunteers come from Lucas County primarily, some Wood County, university students, seniors, teachers, all walks of life. It is an easy way for our volunteers to get engaged in impactful ways, and they can do it episodically. And it gives them an immediate way to contribute. Like when you go past a piece of trash, do you do anything about it? And it's a visible change. Like if you're driving along 75 and you see bags along the way and they're full, it does come back again. And we need the volunteers to remain engaged in that way. And it's pretty visible, I think, when you see somebody else do it. Does it change your behavior? Maybe a little bit. I would hope so. I'm an optimist in thinking that like the fact that we have youth engaging in our volunteer program throughout all the ages, and they keep coming back. Those are perhaps the change that we need. We need people to engage in that way. And I'm just really enthused when I get out and I get to see and have a conversation with a child or a youth about, hey, so what you're picking up, that's kind of gross. It doesn't really belong there. Like, how do you think it got there? And there's usually a great conversation. And it's that, not just the picking up, it's the learning and thinking that I'm most happy about when we go out and do an event. And it involves some critical thinking about like what we do in our choices. Like, does it go in a recycling bin or does it go trash bin? Well, it goes in a bin of some sort, but it doesn't go on a tree. It shouldn't be left behind for somebody else.
I like that you're engaging young people in conversation about how these trash items got in these streams or in the river areas. What kind of feedback do you get from the Girl Scout leaders, the Boy Scout leaders, the teachers, anybody that brings these young kids to help volunteer? What kind of impact are you making on children?
In that experience, we're creating proximity to the issue for the youth. The takeaways for them is, gosh, I can do this with my community. Oftentimes they're doing it and they're developing friendships and connections, not just to a person, but to a place. And we're inviting them in to be the change that they want to see in their community. Like, do we want to live in a community? Where does that responsibility in our community belong? Is it my responsibility? I believe
all of our responsibility.
Yeah,
right?
I believe it's all of our responsibility. And we're allowing them to step into that space and see that they can visibly change something almost immediate. Like, that's no longer a distraction for somebody else, or somebody who doesn't have to see that. And we can be proud and take ownership in our community, which I think they get. Whether they're only going out for goodwill or a community service requirement, but the takeaway after the event is like, gosh, I can be proud of my community and what I contributed. So there are a lot of ways for us to take ownership in that, but I'm glad our mission seems to hit multiple different generations and that they feel connected and they keep on coming back. Like, we just didn't grow from 30 volunteers overnight. After 28 years, we have 1,000 volunteers that have done it. Some of them one and done, but oftentimes it's somebody who's got multiple t-shirts. When we do an event, we oftentimes will provide a t-shirt every single year. And I'm just taken back. Oh, I have that one and that one and that one. So you've done the last 15 years? Yeah. And oh, I missed that year. Do you have one of those shirts? I want it. It's a kind of like a badge of honor for people.
A little bit of a trophy.
Yeah.
You can proudly wear it and show other people that I did this, and maybe they can ask and get involved too.
That's our biggest event. That's our annual event that we're most known for. But throughout the year, we have what is Clean Your Streams 365. You pick a place. We can help you find a place. If you want to get engaged in cleaning up an effort, we can get you started. We have the equipment. We have the safety equipment. We have the trained staff. We don't have to go with you to perform a cleanup event, but we're willing, if it's your first time, hey, look, there's an issue. I'd like to address that issue. It could be perhaps even illegal dumping. We can help actually connect you with the agency that can monitor that and perhaps address and figure out why it's happening. But we see a lot of people wanting to make a change. Sometimes it's just on a bikeway. It can be in a park. I do want to say that we don't do this work, we're a whopping staff of 4 people. We do this in partnership, and we rely on the partnership within our community. And like I said, there's corporations, there's businesses, local municipals are allowing us to show up in this space for our community. So we rely on them. And in fact, if we didn't have those partnerships, it would make this not as impactful, because it is a larger swath that we actually cover. So the Maumee River is actually 134 miles long. We don't address all of it, but the last 35 to 20 miles that dump into Lake Erie, that's what our focus is. So that's a large geographical space. And we have some local partners. I should probably do a shout out for the Toledo Metro Parks, Lucas County Engineers Office, the city of Perrysburg, the city of Oregon. We have many, many partners. I can't list them all that enable and help us really deliver an impactful way to get debris in particular out of the waterway. We also work with them on prevention programs, and what we consider prevention is like educational. So we do campaigns to raise awareness about, hey, did you know that your storm drain dumps into the Maumee River that goes into Lake Erie? And how is that important? Well, if you're washing your car or you're fertilizing or you're just doing those normal things that we sometimes don't think about can have a long-term impact in our water system. And it's much like air. We kind of need it, and our water issues aren't going to change overnight.
Aren't our bodies made up of 2/3 water or something like that? Water is very important.
It is.
Yeah. How do you get the word out? You say you have educational campaigns. How do you get the word out about all these issues that could really impact our waterways?
Well, we try to meet our audience where they're at. And many people are on using social media still to this day. We have a web presence, but where we post all of our events, but we also have a robust following on our Facebook page. We have an Instagram account and an X account. We try to keep people aware of all their opportunities. And it is not just the ones that we are doing. We are supportive of other organizations that are out doing very similar work. Keep Toledo Beautiful. Like, we're willing to post other organizations' stuff. Toledo Metro Parks. We don't have waterway cleanups, on water cleanups like on a kayak, but we do those in partnership with another organization. So sometimes you'll see that we're actually lifting up any opportunity to get engaged in your community, because we do believe that involvement is the way forward.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I will put links to all your social media channels in the show notes on perrysburgpodcast.com. What other challenges does Partners for Clean Streams face as we end 2024 and we jump into 2025 here?
So many of the challenges are community-driven problems, ones that we feel that community participation is a way forward. So the conversation, when we were aware of the issues, we're not as unaware. So some of the challenges for this work in water restoration, it took us a number of years to arrive, and to address large-scale issues require resources. Luckily, the US EPA has invested heavily in the Great Lakes, in the AOC areas, or the area of concerns, and much of it is for waste treatment. Some of the other challenges that are just they're not funded. Those are the challenges that we see. We need philanthropy, community foundation support, private philanthropy to get involved. And those can come from individuals. It can come from businesses. There are a lot of needs in the community, and we want to raise visibility within the community about water issues. Because of the scale and the magnitude of the water issue, we can address small portions. Right now in Lucas County, 10 Mile Creek is being worked on. It is a multi-million-dollar project, and yet it is 5 miles of the more than 500 miles of waterway in Lucas County. So it requires a significant investment to work towards that. And having the community being aware and wanting that change can get us support. Like, all of our work is done in conjunction. There's public meetings so the community can be aware that we are trying to address it. But the scale of the challenge requires resources. And we can work at a local level. And Kim, you can come out and volunteer for us. But some of the large restoration efforts require significant time, effort, planning, and expertise. And that requires resources. So without federal or state level investment, we can only go so far.
I appreciate what you're doing. I understand you face challenges, and I feel like you're just trying to amplify more of what you're already doing that's good. Would that be a fair statement?
It would, Kim. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this annual report because I don't work for Partners for Clean Streams, but I care about the work that you do. And I thought it was really excellent that on your website, which is partnersforcleanstreams.org, correct?
Correct.
All right. You have your annual report, and I started off talking about the number of volunteers, but just looking at the number of pounds of debris removed in 2023, 18,735. I'm sure that you would like to meet that or exceed it as you move forward. Your waterway cleanups, you did 121. The number of river miles cleaned, 65.8. That's amazing. We only have, like 13 miles from Perrysburg to the lake, so I'm sure that multiple events contributed to that, right?
Correct. And we cover Maumee tributaries as well, Maumee watershed. So it's not just in the Maumee River, just for clarification. It includes those other feeders and whatnot that flow into the Maumee River.
Thanks for the clarification. I noticed that you mark storm drains, 1,340 storm drains marked. That's quite a bit. I want to know more about that in just a second. But you already did talk about the fishing line recycling bins. There are 45 in use that you guys maintain, right? And then community tabling events. We'll talk about that in a minute too, because I don't know about that and I would like to know what that has to do with. And educational presentations for youth and adults. The number that you have done in 2023 is 11. As we are in 2024, I'm sure those numbers are going to change. You've got your annual meeting coming up in December. And let's talk about some of these things that I just mentioned. Storm drain marking. Tell me, how does Partners for Clean Streams help with that?
That initiative is around raising awareness about where the water goes. There's been a number of campaigns in the area. There's sometimes they have different slogans and taglines, but it's a raising awareness in our subdivisions, in our anything that connects to a storm drain. And it can be in rural areas or more urban areas, but we are raising awareness for the water that goes into that storm drain does ultimately go into the Maumee River. And there's a connection to that because we do door hangers and we actually empower a local Boy Scout group. Often Boy Scouts are doing this work, and we walk communities, hang door hangers about. Lake Erie starts here, and then there's some information there. We don't get to all of them, but we really look at where the problem areas are, where we're seeing some additional debris flowing into those. And then we try to raise awareness again about be cognizant of when you put your trash out, what's flowing into those, and definitely not some of the more damaging things like your petrels, your stuff that you're fertilizing your yard with, or can be very, very destructive for wildlife.
Okay. I like the door hangers. I believe I've seen one of those on my own, doorknob or my storm door out there. But when I think about the actual marking, don't you paint or spray paint a picture of a fish on the street where the storm drain is? Yeah. Isn't that kind of what the actual marking is?
Yeah, so the picture is a picture of a sturgeon. Lake Erie and Maumee had sturgeon in it at one time, and populations of sturgeon have been replaced. So we think that's an appropriate animal to display. And we're hoping that somebody, when they go past that storm drain, they see the stenciling. It doesn't last forever, so we have to come back. So if you get another door hanger or you see us out spray painting, it lasts about 18 months. But we do try to raise awareness the other way that those drains may be marked with a placard or something like that. And yeah, there are a number of ways to do it. This is not unique to Perrysburg. There are places all across the United States that use this approach to raise awareness, and it helps our local municipals with their MS4 permit, which is something required for local storm drain municipals. Sometimes the things that are on our bodies or things that we use to provide clarity in the water in our swimming pools can be, again, really destructive. That could be a lotion. It could be a saltwater pool. So the actual chlorides that go into the waterway. It could be a chlorine pool. And life does not exist in those in a natural way. And it can change the chemistry of the water. So it actually can raise the temperature of the water and make it more receptive for things like algae blooms and other nutrients. When you pair water that's perhaps lacking oxygen or other things, you could see fish die off. So the reason I brought it up is that we think it would be a fairly harmless thing. I'm just winterizing my pool, but when doing it, there are a number of steps that you can reach out to your local municipal, and they'll tell you exactly how you can properly prepare your water in your swimming pool to go into a place, preferably into the storm drain that then dumps into a waterway.
I had no idea. Don't empty your pool into a storm drain.
Please.
All right, now let's talk about some of these other things. 2 things on my list that I don't know much about are, let's go with the community tabling events first, and then maybe after that we can talk about the educational presentations that you do in the community.
Yeah, so our tabling, the most recent one that I've witnessed us going out to was with the Nature Conservancy, and they were doing some of their community awareness and participation, and we showed up in that space. So oftentimes, Partners for Clean Streams is not going to host something large as Clean Your Streams events. We like to join other organizations in their activities. So when we go out and outreach, it might be with the Toledo Metro Parks, and maybe they're doing something, or a local environmentally conscious organization is also doing something. And it's all about raising the visibility that if you don't know that we exist to address water or litter issues, then you're left unaware. So our outreach is really targeting specific people who are in our community that are more inclined to get engaged. They're already aware and they're looking for ways to connect. And maybe they're not from Perrysburg. In fact, that's actually how I found Partners for Clean Streams. Originally from southeastern Ohio, when I moved in, I was looking for a way to give back to my community. I was familiar with litter cleanups. I was serving on a board for our Friends of Stroud's Run, which was a local state park, and we were doing cleanup events twice a year. So it was the first thing. It was an easy access point because I was already aware of gosh, it only takes a couple hours of my time. I don't have these big board commitments. I can give back by just picking up after one another. And oftentimes when we're in the community, people are unaware, not just of the organization, but this is a way to contribute. So we usually try to create that context that's yeah, you might not have a lot of time, but this is an easy way for you to get engaged. When we do those, we do other activities around education. So we have science kits that talk about, erosion and how it flows downhill and gravity feeds into the water and how water operates, and look at what it picks up along the way. So we do a science component as well. So we're really doing some education, some outreach, but we try to show up in other places, like the Girl Expo the other day. We showed up with 60 other organizations that display ways for that community to get engaged and interface. And we were happy to participate in that because it just logistically makes sense.
You mentioned kind of the science, when water rolls down a hill, what does it bring with it? I wonder if Imagination Station would be interested in, hosting something. Have you done anything with them?
Not since my tenure of joining the organization. I'm sure that somebody has mentioned that, and they actually do have science and discovery at that location. And one of them is an erosion table. And there are ways to look at how sand and silica ends up in our waterways. So you pour a cup of water and you watch it pull down and how it just flows differently. And there's science behind it, right? One of the restoration projects is very scientifically led. So how fast the water is moving, creating pools and bumpers within the system that slow the water down so it has a tendency to drop out the things that we don't want to flow into Lake Erie. The silica, the sand, it slows it down. So there is science behind the restoration work that goes along with this effort.
I like science. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, science is part of education. Can you talk a little bit more about your educational presentations for youth and adults, please?
As I mentioned, we are a small shop and we rely on partnerships to make our activities, our initiatives, our programs, our projects a reality. And our educational outreach component is done in partnership with local schools, Toledo Public Schools being one of those partners. Toledo Metropolitan Council of Governance has staff members that have been able to go out to those schools and deliver information to students about the conversation about water and why water is important, why and how our choices impact the waterway. And it is an ongoing effort. So we do that in conjunction with support from the Ohio EPA to do that work, to do the educational outreach. But it is just that, going out to schools, educating our students. And we're able to do that because the local school invites us into that space. So it could be a science teacher, it could be your math teacher, but somebody who cares about water issues. It is a curriculum-based delivery. So there are products that we come to the table, and it allows us to then really kind of assess what is their understanding of the water issue before. And then when they leave, we also try to assess on the back end about that and invite them into making a difference. So it's again, it is educational based, but it is outreach and getting people engaged in understanding what the problems and what the challenges are around water in our area.
I like that you're starting the conversation early. That's important. Do you take requests? I know you mentioned Toledo Public Schools, but we happen to be in Perrysburg right now. So if a Perrysburg science teacher or some sort of teacher in Perrysburg wants to invite Partners for Clean Streams to talk to their students, would you be open to that?
Happy to come and do that when it fits your schedule as well. Like we're able to be flexible to meet you where you're at. And we've done those presentations in the past. We actually just participated. Perrysburg High School did a senior community engagement day, and we were able to do a service project, which was a cleanup event. We welcome those partnerships. If you have an interest, you can call me directly or email me. It may not be me that shows up. Our program specialist, Kayla, has got an expertise in this area, and I think she does a wonderful job.
Good to know. Thanks for the invitation. I will put your email address in the show notes on perrysburgpodcast.com. I know that part of your title of your organization is partners. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, anybody on your board or your staff, anybody you want to highlight as we start to wrap this up?
This work is done in partnership, but it takes a team. We are a small but mighty team. There are a number of people I should thank and highlight that support this work. One, we have a board that's very dedicated to our mission and support us in many different facets. So I appreciate their involvements. Our staff members, Kat Kiefer is our water coordinator. Kayla Kirkpatrick is our program specialist, and Mary Winkle is our marketing and communication specialist. But it's also the businesses that show up and support the work on an annual basis. Some of our biggest supporters, though, are our community foundation, the Greater Toledo Community Foundation, and the Ohio EPA. Without their support, we really couldn't do this work effectively, and we're just able to spread our efforts so much further and engage in so many more communities when we don't have to spend as much time working about the development aspect of this work.
For anyone who wants to be a private donor, how can they donate to Partners for Clean Streams?
Yeah, so we would love support in that way. And if you're interested, we try to make it as easy as possible. On our webpage, there is an online giving option. Of course, we're located in Perrysburg. If you feel so inclined to stop by the office and meet me, I'd be happy to connect with you in that way. Sending a check to our mailing address is another way that's quite easy. And then, yeah, if you have an idea about something different than a monetary donation, maybe it's your time, maybe it's your expertise, maybe it's your background in research or science, or maybe you're just a person that wants to learn more. Those are welcome opportunities for you to get engaged and support our effort as well, because it is not just the financial aspect. We are looking for people's brain power as well, to help guide and participate in ongoing ways.
Yeah, time, treasure, and talents, right? That's what you're looking for. Jesse, did you want to talk about volunteer opportunities or anything else?
Yes. I mentioned that we are performing cleanup events and ways to get engaged with us are year-round, 365 days of the year. And much of our work is seasonal, that it's April through October, and that's when there's large participation. But you don't have to wait. We do perform cleanup events during the winter months. So if you're interested, don't wait for the nice weather. We also have those when the water is low. This is a great opportunity to get in there and pull some stuff out. So if it's today, tomorrow, this weekend, reach out to us. We'd be happy to engage.
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning that. As we record this at the end of November 2024, the water level is very low. So this is a good time, it sounds like, to do some volunteering. Thank you very much for the important work that you do for Northwest Ohio. And thank you for being on the Perrysburg podcast, Jesse.
Kim, thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure. Thanks again to Jesse Stock for being my guest today on episode 72 of the Perrysburg podcast. I'll do just a quick review and then we'll wrap this episode up. Partners for Clean Streams has been making a positive impact on Northwest Ohio since 2007. Their small but mighty staff of 4 right here in Perrysburg have done great things, but the volunteers, donors, educators, and other partners who believe in what they do have amplified that impact. When you see Partners for Clean Streams at a table in the community like the Homecoming Festival in 2025, walk up to their table and let them know that you heard about them here on the Perrysburg podcast. I greatly appreciate what they do, and I love the Maumee River and Lake Erie. I'm a kayaker. I love the Maumee. It's a great feature of Northwest Ohio. I also hope to volunteer at one of their events in 2025, and I hope that you will join me too. Thank you so much for listening to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 72. Please visit perrysburgpodcast.com to read the show notes. In the show notes today, you will find the website and social media links for Partners for Clean Streams, Jesse Stock's email address, just in case you want to get in touch, the mailing address for Jesse's office, Partners for Clean Streams, just in case you'd like to mail a donation to Partners for Clean Streams. There's a lot more links in there. Those are just some of them. Lots and lots of links in the show notes today. Everything you need is on perrysburgpodcast.com. If you would like to be notified by email about each new episode of the Perrysburg Podcast, sign up for the newsletter on perrysburgpodcast.com. If you like newsletters, Partners for Clean Streams also has an email list. You'll find that at the bottom of their website. As I record this in December of 2024, the sign up for the email list for Partners for Clean Streams is at the very, very bottom of their website. Sign up and you will get notified about upcoming cleanup events and other news. Their website again is partnersforcleanstreams.org. One last thing, if you like this podcast, go ahead and get out your smartphone right now and subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Go ahead and share this episode with anyone you think might enjoy it. I appreciate you listening today, and I will talk to you next Friday.